going crazy lately, I've been feeling reckless. And I know that people talking about me, they be jealous. Put that money where your mouth is, we ain't get the message. All these rappers lacking, they be looking like some extras. Everybody talk.
The Sony PlayStation, the console that started it all. The console that either you, your older siblings, or your parents have at least played once or twice in their lifetime, and probably a lot more than that. Let's bring some nostalgia back into 2020. Now firstly, I'll start with, did anyone remember that this was actually meant to be a collaboration between Nintendo and Sony, and not just meant to be a Sony's own console? I'll throw some pictures up on screen, but the Nintendo PlayStation, as it was dubbed to differentiate from the Sony PlayStation, the actual one we know, was actually meant to be a thing, an add-on to the SNES, and just allowed this instead. That was genuinely a thing that was going to happen. I did not know about it for quite a long time. I knew about it not very long ago this year, actually. Imagine if that was the direction that Sony and Nintendo went on, and that deal didn't fall through like it did, which ended up bringing us to PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, as we know. Where could we be now if Sony and Nintendo was dominating that scene? But nonetheless, we actually got the PlayStation 1 in its own. I look back at the specs here at the PlayStation now, and it's wild to think that firstly, those specs back then, which I'll tell you more about later on, are now overly shadowed by the 2020 specs of anything, a console, a phone, a PC, anything you can think of. It's wild how far we've come from that, but it's even wilder that those specs back then, bear in mind this is 1994, were more than good enough to eventually start to bring in the 3D games that we bring in as the complete norm of today. We don't think twice about having a 3D game, and having CDs is the thing we actually play our games with. That bit I'd actually like to get removed, and I'm glad it's slowly getting phased out. But those things were the norm for a long time, and this was one of the first things to make it a complete norm. Let me read out these specs. I'm going to need my phone to make sure I get this number right. The CPU runs at 33.8688 MHz. There's 2 megabytes of RAM, 1 megabyte of video RAM, and using all that, it could go all the way up to 480i. Not 480p, 480i resolution. Bearing in mind, there was nothing like 720p or any form of HD really back in 1994, so you can probably allow that. But that's wild. Those specs were more than fine to run games. Despite how underwhelming all those specs definitely sound in 2020, anyone back then playing really didn't care. They were just enjoying all the great new experiences they were having on all the new games that were flooding out for this thing. And clearly all the stuff they had under the hood worked. It sold 100 million consoles, and it's still one of the most sold consoles to this day. I believe it's about 4th on the list of all consoles I think ever sold. I'm not sure about that. And obviously that was pushed by the fact it had games like Gran Turismo starting on there, Tomb Raider starting on there, Crash Bandicoot, Final Fantasy series. The list is huge of all the great games. There's probably many that I've missed out, and I'm well aware of that. I could spend 20, 30 minutes, probably an hour talking about those, but I don't think I need to convince you any further of the PlayStation 1 status. Let's actually talk about the look of the console. Now, the console itself has a very simple design, obviously. You'd think, okay, maybe now it looks boring, and if anyone says that, I'd like to have words with you, but basically it's the standard rectangle shape, it's the standard box shape, simple, it's got the standard power buttons, the standard eject button, all that stuff, the memory card slots, which if you lost said memory card was basically game over with all your saves. But as a whole, the design just worked. It wasn't after much more than just making sure it worked fine. I mean, back then nothing really was going much further than that, but it worked as a whole, and as you can see, most consoles now, especially if you look at the Xboxes, which most would say is boring and just a box, it came from stuff like this, and Sony were doing that, so people really didn't mind back then, and that's basically where consoles have started growing off. I mean, alright, now we have the PlayStation 5, which looks radically different, which I really like, but it started from a very simple box. Then there's the iconic grey colour, which as soon as you see it, immediately reminds you of the PlayStation name, probably more specifically the PlayStation 1 itself. It's a great colour, it just looks so good on a console itself, and it also looks really good on the controller itself. Talking more on the controller, again, it's pretty much a standard controller shape that now in 2020 is exactly what you recognise on every single controller. PlayStation, again, definitely made most of those things mainstream on a controller, hence why you see it on all of them now today. It had the handle grip so you could hold it and play with it for a long amount of time. It obviously had the D-pad we used to the buttons as well on the other side, and 2 pairs of shoulder buttons this time, which gave a bit more added depth, and eventually that evolved into shoulder buttons and triggers, which again is the norm for us now. If you look at that controller, bar missing analogs, which came very close after, it's pretty much the exact same controllers we're used to right now, with except the offset if you go on Xbox, that sort of thing. Basically, every single controller you hold now fits in your hand well because of the PlayStation 1's original controller. Now, of course, I couldn't just actually get the console out, look around it, and talk about it if I wasn't planning to at least try and play it in some form. So, I filmed a bit of it. Let's talk about that. Alright, so first of all, we'll start with the fact that 1, I'm not using my main mic. 2, there is no actual audio coming from this because the wires and all my setup is just odd. I know there's a fix, but I'm not doing it yet. Secondly, I'm recording my whole screen with my camera, also to get me reacting and stuff, but at least if I go and press the on button, it eventually turns on. Please do this. I'll insert the order because I have to have it. I have to have it. It actually works. And better still, inside there is a game. It's Grand Theft Auto 1, the first ever Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, why not? Why not? Now, the first console I actually played wasn't actually the PS1, it was actually the PS2, which I do have very fond memories with as well, and if I had it, I probably would be making a very similar video on it as well. But my memories of the PS1 are still pretty vivid in my mind. I still do remember it, and I still have plenty of little things I could probably share about it. Seeing the loading screen and the sound pop up every time you power on the console is incredible. It brings back all the feels, and especially the second screen, which meant your disc was working and it wasn't scratched to hell. That was a satisfying screen to see, oh god. Then there's these memory cards and actually scrambling around to find them if you lost them, and if you lost them then that was pretty much game over, because that was where all your saves lived. If you lost that, that was your whole livelihood gone pretty much. Those are so vital to playing on that. It's insane how much legendary status they have. Again, I only personally had a little bit of time on the PlayStation 1, as the PlayStation 2 was my main first dominant console. But if you ask any of your older siblings or your parents that were gamers and played this back then, I just ask them to tell you about it. They will be able to talk about it for hours and hours on end, I will assure you of that. Speaking of which, I should probably ask my brothers about that in the same fashion, because they was around more with the PlayStation 1. I wasn't actually born when it first launched, so be interesting to see all the thoughts and memories they have on playing that thing. Anyway, let me finally try to wrap up my nostalgia trip here in this video. In general, I just love to marvel how technology grows and evolves all the time, and especially in gaming, as you've probably seen with multiple videos and multiple more in the future hopefully. It's just great to see how it evolves into now. We've got 4K gaming, we have diskless gaming, hopefully that becomes a mainstream thing very quickly. We've got wireless controllers, we've got online gaming, we've got heaps of power and storage inside all the consoles now, and all these things were pretty much based off the platform that the PlayStation 1 left for all of us, all from the memory cards up to terabyte storage, from the console's controller to basically the same design controller now in 2020. And as I said, the games, obviously most of the series that you know and love, all started on there. There's Gran Turismo that I really loved playing back in the day. Then there's GTA, which you saw me play earlier. There's the first GTA, seeing that being played again is weird and wild. That it started from that, and now we're on the 5th one, which is going on for 3 generations in a row. It's wild to see just where it started. It all started on that. All of those started mainly on the PS1 for me at least. So all I'm hoping for is that the PS5 and the Series X do exactly what the PS1 did for us for the new generation of gamers, because I just want that console to basically make all the same memories and stuff. I want it to be that, like, do you remember when we played the PS5 back in the day, when they're, let's say, 20 or 30 years older and they get to talk about it to their kids, or if they're making YouTube videos as well, that sort of thing. So I think I can finally end my nostalgia trip on that one. That was the original PlayStation 1 in 2020, and basically me just lording over it for I don't know how long this video is. But if you did enjoy looking back at it a little bit, smash a like on it, and yeah, comment any other things you want to see. And I mean, I'd love to try and record some gameplay on this or stream it on my Twitch, which should be down in the description. I need more things for the setup. I basically don't have enough to do that, but if I could do that one time, that would be great. Look out for that. But yeah, that is it. I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully these new console generation stuff just bring out a lot of great stuff. I'll make more videos in it, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.
Cause the numbers don't explain. Hold up, never met you, so you're not my friend. I'm with the day ones they stayed. Come up.